Asia is falling apart. Once powerful nations are now desperately scrambling to avoid total economic meltdown. Wealthy nations, known for their towering skyscrapers and bustling financial districts, are now facing economic ruin. Banks are running out of cash, inflation is skyrocketing, and currencies are becoming worthless. Governments are selling national assets just to keep the lights on, while once thriving industries crumble. While the world was distracted by China's rise, these Asian tigers were turning into starving kittens. But wait until you see the country at number 1. This economic powerhouse is on the verge of a catastrophic crash, and it could send shockwaves throughout the entire world. No one saw this coming. And now it might be too late to stop the domino effect that will change everything. 8. Laos, drowning in debt. Laos is on the verge of economic collapse due to its overwhelming dependence on Chinese loans. Many of its ambitious infrastructure projects, including railways and hydropower plants, have been financed by Chinese investments. While these projects promised growth, they have pushed Laos into unsustainable debt. The country is now at risk of falling into a debt trap, where it struggles to make repayments while losing control over its own resources. Inflation is also soaring, making basic necessities unaffordable for many citizens. The cost of food, fuel, and daily essentials has drastically increased, adding pressure to an already struggling population. The government has been forced to take drastic measures, including selling state assets and seeking emergency assistance from international lenders. Without a strong economic recovery plan, Laos risks becoming a failed state, completely reliant on foreign powers for its survival. The future of Laos depends on whether it can find a way to break free from its growing financial crisis. 7. Mongolia, the struggle of a resource-dependent economy. Mongolia's economy is in serious trouble due to its over-reliance on mineral exports, particularly coal and copper. The country is heavily dependent on global commodity prices, and any fluctuation in demand from major buyers like China can send Mongolia into an economic crisis. The government has attempted to diversify the economy, but progress has been slow. Infrastructure gaps, a lack of skilled labor, and an unstable political climate have made it difficult to attract foreign investment beyond the mining sector. Inflation has further worsened the economic situation, causing sharp increases in food and energy prices. Many Mongolian citizens are struggling to make ends meet as wages fail to keep up with the cost of living. In addition, Mongolia faces geopolitical pressures, as it is sandwiched between two global powers, China and Russia. Managing these complex relationships while maintaining economic stability is proving to be a daunting challenge for the nation's leadership. 6. Sri Lanka. A nation in economic freefall, Sri Lanka's economic woes have reached a breaking point. Years of mismanagement, excessive debt, and political instability have pushed the country to the edge of bankruptcy. The nation defaulted on its foreign debt in 2022, and despite receiving an IMF bailout, it continues to struggle with inflation and a devalued currency. Many citizens are unable to afford basic necessities, and long lines for fuel, food, and medicine have become a daily reality. The collapse of tourism, once a major economic driver, has only worsened the crisis. Businesses are shutting down, unemployment is rising, and social unrest is growing. The Sri Lankan government has implemented severe austerity measures to meet IMF requirements, but this has led to further hardship for ordinary citizens. With increasing pressure from creditors and no clear path to economic recovery, Sri Lanka remains in deep trouble. If the crisis continues, the island nation risks prolonged instability and further financial collapse. 5. Pakistan, a nation on the brink of financial ruin. Pakistan is in the midst of a severe economic crisis, with its foreign exchange reserves at critically low levels. The country is struggling to pay for essential imports such as fuel, medicine, and food, leading to severe shortages and soaring prices. Inflation has reached record highs, making life unbearable for millions of citizens. The Pakistani rupee continues to lose value, further eroding purchasing power and creating uncertainty in the business sector. Political instability has only made matters worse, as frequent leadership changes and inconsistent policies have scared away foreign investors. The government has been forced to seek emergency loans from the IMF and friendly nations, but these come with strict conditions that make economic recovery even more difficult. Without structural reforms and better fiscal management, Pakistan risks slipping into a deeper financial abyss that could have lasting consequences for its people and the region. 4. Lebanon, a broken financial system. Lebanon's economy is in a state of total collapse. The banking sector is in ruins, with citizens unable to access their own savings due to strict withdrawal limits. Inflation is out of control, and the Lebanese pound has lost more than 90% of its value. Basic necessities, including food and medicine, have become unaffordable for the majority of the population. The government has struggled to implement necessary reforms due to deep-seated corruption and political infighting. As a result, international financial aid has been slow to arrive, leaving Lebanon to fend for itself. The country's once thriving middle class has been pushed into poverty, and unemployment has skyrocketed. With no clear solution in sight, Lebanon's financial crisis is likely to persist, causing continued suffering for its people and uncertainty for its future. 3. Kyrgyzstan, a fragile economy under pressure. Kyrgyzstan's economy is heavily dependent on remittances from citizens working abroad, mainly in Russia and Kazakhstan. This makes the country extremely vulnerable to external economic shocks. Any decline in remittances directly impacts household incomes and weakens the overall economy. Inflation and currency depreciation have further eroded purchasing power, making it difficult for ordinary citizens to afford basic goods and services. Political instability has also been a persistent issue, with frequent government changes and policy reversals discouraging long-term investment. Corruption and poor governance continue to plague the country, making economic reforms difficult to implement. The government must focus on creating local job opportunities, strengthening institutions, and improving trade policies to ensure long-term economic stability. Without decisive action, Kyrgyzstan risks falling further into financial uncertainty. 2. Myanmar. Economic and political collapse. Myanmar's economy has been devastated by ongoing political turmoil and international sanctions. Since the military coup in 2021, foreign investments have dried up, trade has been disrupted, and inflation has soared. The country's currency, the kyat, has plummeted in value, making imports more expensive and worsening the cost of living crisis. Many businesses have shut down and unemployment has reached alarming levels. The banking sector is struggling, with many citizens unable to access their savings. International sanctions have further isolated Myanmar from the global economy, limiting its ability to recover. With continued political unrest and no clear path to stability, Myanmar's economic future remains bleak. The country risks long-term financial and social devastation unless drastic measures are taken to restore stability and investor confidence. 1. Vietnam. The unexpected collapse of an economic superstar. Vietnam has long been seen as one of Asia's fastest-growing economies, but recent financial turmoil has cast a shadow over its success. The country's reliance on exports has made it vulnerable to global economic slowdowns, and rising debt levels have put immense pressure on the government. Vietnam's real estate sector, once booming, is now in crisis, with many large developers facing insolvency. The banking sector is also under strain, as non-performing loans pile up and liquidity dries out. Inflation is on the rise, causing living costs to soar. With weakening investor confidence and slowing economic growth, Vietnam is now facing the risk of a major financial downturn. If its economy collapses, it could send shockwaves through the entire region, affecting global supply chains and trade. Vietnam's leaders must act swiftly to stabilize the economy before it's too late.